And we're back, and we're live. This is Orlando Live, your host, Jonathan Sebastian Blount, here at Taste in College Park, and we have a very, very special guest. There's so much more to this guest than you have ever known. I mean, he is an educator, he is a motivator, he's inspiring, but most importantly, I think, he's also instructive. And what specifically brings him here to Orlando, and a tour that he's been on, to my knowledge, since Friday in St. Pete and Saturday in Tampa, and then here today in Orlando. I mean, and this is real work. This is the kind of work that you put in when you're promoting a film and being paid an awful lot of money. And that's not happening here. But he's doing this because he wants to bring an opportunity to people. And the product you can see here in the background is Organo Gold. And Brother Glover, why this product and why now?
Well, there are two reasons for it. First of all, I'm going to say to you that until I tasted this product, I had not drank coffee on a regular basis. In fact, I rarely drank coffee, and yet at the same time, right now, whether it's because it is a habit or whatever, I'm drinking coffee, a cup of coffee every day. Drink this coffee every day. And specifically this coffee, because of not only the fact that it is coffee, it is healthy coffee. It has a Chinese herb, which is referred to as the king of herbs, infused in the coffee bean, and that herb is called Ganoderma. Most people who are into Chinese herb know it as reishi mushroom. So if you're in the church, you know reishi is mushroom, and it's my vitamin guy, my vitamin guru tells me is one of the top 5 mushrooms in the world, reishi mushroom. So that's the product itself. To this thing, we've discussed a great deal about my life and what are the influences in my life. Certainly when I talked about that relationship, that very special relationship that I had and was able to develop working in community development. The question of community development has always been on my mind. When I became the Goodwill Ambassador of not UNICEF, but United Nations Development Program, the UNDP, in 1997, early 1998, I became involved specifically because I wanted to be a part of the discourse around development, to hear the discourse around development. How do communities use resources? How do they do the resources that they generate, and how do they allow those resources to help them maintain a stability within the community itself? There's always been something that's been on my mind. It took me as a student to the work that I did for the city and county of San Francisco, and it's continued to be a dialogue. So even in my reading, the reading that I do often, whether it's people like David Corden, who has a wonderful book called Agenda for a New Economy, or other writers out there who talk about different ways in which people can now reshape their thinking of their economic life in real terms. What do they eat? How do they think about things around food security, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I'm going off on a tangent right here to talk about
but this is background.
Just the background of all these thoughts, all the thinking that goes in my mind. And so, when I begin to think of multi-level marketing, and multi-level marketing has been cursed with everything from it being voodoo happening to a pyramid scheme and everything else right there. All the things you say. But it's also still
one of the fastest growing areas of entrepreneurship in the world.
Absolutely.
It's one of the few places where you can still go in with nothing and build a major organization and a major income.
Absolutely.
And it's happening.
And it's happening right now. It's happening, and it's increasingly. Why is it happening? Because the kind of tenets of or the absolutes that we had believed we had in our life, a job for 40 years, pension and welfare, health care, a paid house, etc. All those things, all that's dissolved, all that's gone. It's like, and it was only a brief time. if you look at the studies in the whole idea of this whole idea of this American dream manifests itself in those specifics, it's only a brief time. It's only that period of time post the collapse, the depression, and the first part of and the latter part up to the latter part of the 20th century. That's only a brief time in human history, in his economic life and everything else. And it happened with an enormous, something happened extraordinarily that had not happened in the history of man. This enormous expansionism that took place in technology and also physical expansion, the expansion of schools, infrastructure, all that took place post-World War II.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Building highways, connected highways, all those things. There's more creative. There was more wealth created in that time, primarily because, one, the U.S. infrastructure for development was the only one left intact after World War II. So it rebuilt Japan, it rebuilt Europe. All those things were the key moments, and what is often termed the heyday of U.S. capitalism and everything else. All that's gone. As I said before, since 1975, real income for the average worker has remained stagnant since 1975. Since 1975, the number of women into the workforce has increased, has doubled from 35% to 7%. All those things are real things that are happening in people's lives. So the question becomes is that how do you now re-engineer another way of looking at your life in relationship to the economics that are important to it, you know? And certainly the idea of being an entrepreneur gives you certain advantages. You're a small business owner. There's certain tax racks out that you have. If you're serious about it, it's not play game, not PlayStation. It's real serious about it. There's certain ways in which you now become the term that I use, and that we've kind of coined with our group, the architects of your own rescue. And so that's why
the architects of your own rescue.
The architects of your own rescue.
All right.
In a sense. And so
creating your own stimulus plan.
Creating your own stimulus, creating all that. And it involves something else. Why coffee? You take your hat off.
Why coffee? Look at Starbucks. Look at Dunkin' Donuts. Look at McDonald's. I mean, everybody's talking about coffee.
McCafe. There was, even in the business section, about 3 weeks ago, there's an article that broke down why McDonald's was profitable. Two things: coffee and McRibs. You know, I don't know whatever the case is, coffee and McRibs. Ronald McDonald is out of business. He's unemployed.
Right, really?
You know, when was the last time you seen a Big Mac over there? Of course, people drink coffee.
Really.
In North America, 340 million people, 255 million people drink anywhere from 3 to 5 cups of coffee today, and some of them willing to pay $4 for it.
No,
That's
yes,
real.
yes.
So
yes.
now this is what's
this isn't just coffee. This is like coffee on steroids. Because I had some, and let me tell you, I took a half a cup, man, and I was.
Well, it is coffee. It has Ganoderma in it. If you look up the reishi mushroom, because the reishi mushroom is an extraordinary. The Chinese and other cultures have another kind of relationship to nature and wellness that we don't often employ, and perhaps we need to employ some sort of way. And that relationship, this is reishi mushroom, and I used a friend of mine, Ron Teagarden, and I've known him for over 20 years. In fact, I met him when I was doing the second lethal weapon. Ron Teagarden is one of the foremost authorities on Chinese herbs in the country. His wife is Chinese, and her father is in charge of the whole Chinese medicinal area, that area, pharmaceutical, medicinals, and all that area in China. And Ron Teagarden and I were involved 18 years ago, in trying to put together a generic Chinese herb company, which I invested in. The idea is to get Chinese herbs to people, to get people who would normally have access to Chinese herbs, you know what I mean, especially. So I know a little bit about Chinese herb, and particularly the reishi mushroom. So the reishi mushroom has all these properties. Now, I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to claim any medical miracles, any of this right here. That's not what I'm doing. I'm not a doctor. But certainly, before you have any investigation of anything, the first thing you go on is personal testimony. What did it make? How did it make you feel? How did it do with your energy? How did it make? Did you sleep better? Will you have more energy? How's your blood pressure? If you got high blood pressure, that's personal testimony. People can't refute that. They can't refute that. And if you're drinking the coffee and it does that, then that's a plus. So, but not only that, we see where coffee is the second leading commodity traded on the stock exchange after oil. Coffee is the second leading fluid drunk by any of us after water. And you need water to prepare coffee. So on the one hand, all these things, there's a certain logic. If you just put on a business hat, certain logic, and say, okay then, what can you, if people come together around coffee, which they're going to do anyway, and there's certain studies on coffee that have certain properties to them. There's a new study, I think about Nature Life magazine or something, that says coffee has certain properties that fight certain dementia and cancer in women, et cetera, that has those properties in it. If you ever take this, put it with the reishi mushroom, put the business cap on, and begin to think about how people can get a portion of that, whatever the amount is. 1%. Someone said 1%.
That
of
incredible
the coffee,
economic engine of potential.
Yeah, 1% of the coffee market is $125 million a month. And people become involved in that, and they have that circulating in the community. Economic.